Welcome to the grand finals of the middle school debate. A round of applause for everyone. Non-debaters, are you ready? Debaters, are you ready? Timekeeper, are you ready? Judges, are you ready? The motion states, this House would expel students who have committed school violence. From the opposition team, we have Jenny. We have Abigail. Finally, but not least, we have Mueller. From the government team, we have Jisoo. We have Tyler. And finally, we have Natalie. Let's now welcome the Prime Minister to the stand.
First place in shipbuilding, IT industry, and internet services. These are all the honors that Korea is blessed with in the whole world. But these are not the only thing that Korea has taken in the first place. Teenagers' rates of suicide in education. These are also the ones that Korea has taken in the first place. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Prime Minister Jisoo. Nowadays, Korea is having a lot of problems with teenager suicide. But actually, this problem is also an issue in the whole world. However, one of the factors of this extreme death is the school violence. As we need to save the innocent victims from threats of death and school violence. We, the government, strongly agree on the motion. This House would expel students who have committed school violences. If I introduce our teams for reasonable arguments briefly, expelling students who have committed school violence is justifiable and can increase our reputation and suitable for our school's purpose and decrease the rate of violence. Before I go any farther, as a Prime Minister, I would like to define the crucial words used in the motion. First, the word expel means that a person is officially told to leave as he or she has committed the bad behaviors. And commit means offending a victim in a direct way. And phrase have committed actually means the offenders within a range of 6 months. Lastly, school violence is divided into the two branches, which are verbal violence and physical violence. In this motion, verbal violence means the repeated words that makes victims feel a sense of shame, such as threaten or sexual harassment. We both include these two branches, this kind of school violences. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the real motion. Also, when we decide whether the student is expelled or not, as we can see on the motion, we are not making a decision only inside the school, but also in other bigger organizations such as police. Therefore, we can prevent from making mortified offenders as we can get an accurate investigation and objective decision. Now, I would like to introduce our team's arguments. First, let me ask a question. What do you think is the biggest crime that can happen in school? To give an answer, it is the school violence. Then, what do you think is the biggest punishment for the students? If we give the answer, it is expel. These both two are accepted as an extreme problem or a punishment of the students or for the students. So, the point we actually want to mention is that even though expelling students can be an extreme policy for offender students, the crimes they committed are already extreme, as it includes verbal and physical violences. Expel can be a justified policy or an answer for school violence. We want to applicate the idiom called eyes to eyes and teeth to teeth. Isn't it giving the punishment, which is controlled by the amount of crime, the most reliable and justifiable decision? Second, if the school does not...
Don't you think we have to consider this student's identity?
Let me explain that later. Second, if the schools does not actually provide a certain policy, who do you think will accept students' rights? How can we solve the problems of offenders, and how can we compensate the victims' rights? If the school is not responsible for these complicated problems and just leave the students, do you think something will be changed or challenged? Do you really believe that? No, it will never be. However, expelling students can. The opposition might rebut to our idea by saying that expel is not the only way to contend with a problem such as school violence. It is too extreme. But the reason why expel is the most efficient or effective way is because they make the students know and realize the seriousity of violence and give them awareness. As they are afraid of getting expelled from school, the students will not violate other students. And we can finally decrease the rate of school violence. These are the reasons why students who have committed school violences should be expelled from schools. As we, the government, truly believes on its justification and efficiency, the motion should clearly stand. Thanks for listening to my speech, honorable judges and audiences. I yield my time.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Let's now welcome the Leader of Opposition.
What is school? When you wake up in the morning, you automatically get into your uniforms and go to school. Like this, we spend a large amount of time of our lives in school. Like this, school is our another home, and the friends and teachers there are another family. Do you think it can be justified that students are kicked out of their homes and away from their families? Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Leader of Opposition, and we strongly disagree that students should be expelled when they commit school violence. First, I'll give some rebuttals to what the government has said. The Prime Minister's first point was that expelling is an extreme punishment, so it's effective. Since it's an extreme punishment, that is why we disagree with this motion. School is a place where students learn things and where they can develop. However, expelling is too extreme and it's too harsh. There are cases when students make mistakes. They don't even know they committed school violence. So we have to consider the exceptions. No, thank you. So expelling is too extreme. The Prime Minister's second point was that we have to accept the victim's rights. However, what about the offenders? What about their future? It may be a mistake. They can develop later if they are educated. However, because of one mistake, they can ruin their life. And to state our team's opinion, our first argument is that expelling students is not the school's duty. The definition of school is a place where children go to be educated. And educated means to be taught about something, not just academic knowledge, but also humanity. School is not a place to be kicked out if they cause problems or do something wrong. Schools have to treat students with love because students are still young and they're not mature enough. If they're taught, they can develop and they can become a better person. So the schools have to lead students to the right way so that they can have a better life out in the society. They can have a better personality and they can admit their fault. They can acknowledge the significance of school violence and not do it again. Also, high school is the last stage before going into the actual society, and losing this opportunity is a big loss. Imagine, you were expelled from high school, and other high schools may not accept you because they know you will cause troubles again, and they can't don't have to accept you because high school is unmandatory education. Then you have nowhere to go. What will you do? You don't even have a high school graduation. And people with only high school graduation can't even do what they want to do. But if you only have a middle school graduation, you have nothing to do, and your future is dark. So, expelling students from school is ruining their life, and the schools don't have the authority to ruin one's life. Also, expelling students is not finding the source of this problem. The cause of school violence is because they don't know how to socialize and respect others. However, if they're educated, they can develop and they can admit their faults. However, if they don't educate the students and just leave them alone out in the society, they will not develop and it can cause bigger problems. And students and schools just want to ignore this problem because they don't want to be part of a bigger problem. They don't want something bad to happen in their school, so they just ignore the student that caused problems. So it's not solving this problem, so there's no point of actually expelling the students. We didn't ask for schools for high quality of education. We didn't ask them for good facilities. We only asked them to lead their students the right way and not give them up. So I don't think this isn't a hard thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition. Deputy Prime Minister.
School violence, a big problem to be dealt with and to be solved. Expel, a serious and great punishment to be given to us students. When someone does something good, they receive something good in return. It is what they deserve. But this should apply exactly the same for a situation where someone does something bad. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I, Tyler, as the Deputy Prime Minister, would like to make some rebuttals and explain clearly about our remaining points. We, the government, have explained how expelling would be the best way to prevent violent acts. However, the opposition has failed to rebut against this argument by saying that it is just too extreme and shouldn't happen. But school violence is the most extreme thing which could happen in a school. An extreme result is what they should deserve. The opposition has also stated that expelling students isn't the school's duty. However, this can easily be proven wrong. Even though something could not be someone's duty, if a decision should be made and is required, it should be made. If there is a janitor and he saw a dead person, should he or she ignore it because their job is only to clean places? No. Now, I would like to move on to our remaining points. Firstly, the reputation of the schools will be considered low, which will lead to other big problems in the future. Here, we do not want the opposition to misunderstand what we are trying to say. The opposition could be thinking how expelling the students would be the real reason of the bad reputation of schools. However, once the law is assured and is made, the school would only be one, which is keeping those laws just right. This kind of thinking would only be appropriate in our current society when this law hasn't been made, not after we allow students who show violence to be expelled. Back to my point, the assaulters and offenders themselves in the schools are who would be causing the main problems. And if you, ladies and gentlemen, consider all consequences which happen from these people, what they do could be worse influences than to expel them, even in our current society. Would be continuing to have a student who is an offender causing a variety of problems a better choice, or just to expel them simply and definitely be a better choice as we previously stated. We, the government, strongly and confidently believe that expelling the students would definitely be a better and efficient choice. Last but not least, education is the main and most important job a school should be doing for students. However, if there are offenders to be existing to bother that process, it would just not be fair for the sufferers, who we should be taking more care of. Schools should be places where they treat each student fairly and give them the best environment to study in. Education being interrupted. What worse could happen in a school? The answer to that question is nothing. Nothing can be worse than having the main point and purpose of something, event, or process to be corrupted. Of course, the opposition could be thinking that expelling could just be too extreme, as they previously stated, and violating the offender's rights. But as I said, when someone does something, what they get in return is what they deserve, no matter what situation it may be. Due to these following up, in our current society, education is the foundation of everything. Just like a tower. If the very bottom stage starts to corrupt, no thank you ma'am. If the very bottom stage starts to break down and corrupt, the same would happen for the upper stages later on. Due to these following reasons, we the government strongly agree on today's motion. This House would expel students who have committed school violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Let's now welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Imagine you're the boss of a company. You are just about to pick your new employee. Would you like to pick a person who has not graduated from middle school or high school? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Abigail. And before I go on, I would like to rebut Proposition side's argument. First, you said that one should get the exact punishment. But think with notion, with common sense. Do you hit that person because that person hit you? No, you don't. You've tried to forgive them. We have to negotiate with each other. Next, I want to point out that you keep saying that expelling is as if expelling is the only way to solve school violence. Also, you said that school violence rate will decrease. However, non-school violence that happens outside of school can increase. Also, you said that schools are places for education. However, we want to say and emphasize that education does not only contain knowledge. Schools are a place where they teach students how to socialize. So please keep that in mind. No, thank you. Now let me go on to my points. First, expelling students is not practical. We can fractionize this into two. The limit is fake. It is hard for teachers to distinguish between prank and real violence, especially for boys. Sometimes there are some things that people did not intend it to be. For example, my friend actually got seriously injured by a prank during a school trip. The teachers did not know whether to expel the offender or not because it was just a light prank, but the injury was so excruciating. Also, expelling students is not practical because there are lots of rate of relapse. When a student gets expelled from one school, they will move on to other schools. For high schoolers, there might be some obstacles to do that because high school education is not mandatory, but for middle school and elementary school, the law says that it is mandatory, so they will move on to other schools and bully again. Plus, if the government proclaimed that to expel students officially, schools will rather try to cover up the incidents and offenders. They have to kick them out because it is demeaning the authority of one particular school. I mean, would you like to go into a school that has expelled 15 students a year? I wouldn't. Expelling students because they committed school violence is just full of idiocy, and I think it is a very ridiculous solution. Our second reason is that it is a solution that is disadvantageous to both offender and disoffender sides. Let me divide this into two again. one standing in offender's shoes and the other in defender's. First, offender. If we just expel a student from a school, how will his or her life be? Think you have got kicked out from your high school. No schools are trying to accept you. Now you have to go your own way by yourself. I mean, there are some possibility of studying by yourself and going to good university or college, but is that easy? It is easier for people to just give up than to cheer themselves up and to control themselves. Students who got expelled may have a blurry future, lose the chance of education, and really become a gangster or a criminal, and that will cause more social problems. To stand on defender's shoes, an offender may try to revenge the defender, and the school violence rates may decrease, but non-school violence out of school rate can increase rapidly, as I said in the rebuttals. We have to know that expelling students from school is a way that is bad for both sides, both for victims and for offenders. It cannot be considered as a solution because it does not even solve the problem. It just causes more problems. We have to look at this motion from a wide point of view. Rather than deserting students, we have to hug and understand them, just like the leader of opposition said. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. Let's now welcome the government whip.
School. The definition of school is a public or private facility where both adolescents and adults come to be educated. It means that the purpose of schools is education. Education. Now, can anyone here see how violence is related to education? Can anyone? No, no one can. No one, including you and me, can tell how violence is directly relevant to education in whatsoever way. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, fellow debaters and honorable judges, we, the government, strongly believe that students who have committed school violence should be expelled. And I, Natalie, as the government whip, would like to whip the floor of today's debate. Before I rebut the opposition's arguments and state the major questions of this morning's debate, I would like to point out some things. First, the opposition has asked the POI in a protected time, and I would now like to answer the POI which the opposition has asked. The opposition asked that, why don't we consider the student's identity? We say that this POI lacks content which should have explained the main points the POI itself was trying to ask. And I will answer the POI now. In a case which a student could get expelled, larger facilities like police officers will be involved, giving accurate investigation and objective decisions. This means that a student's identity will also be taken into consideration during the investigation of the case. I will now like to rebut these arguments and state the major causes of this debate. The DLO has said that we have to negotiate with the offenders and the victims. However, do you really think that negotiating with the criminal is a productive way to make ends meet? School violence is a crime and should not be handled with negotiation. Also, the DLO has been talking about violence made by students outside of school. However, the motion clearly states that we are going to expel school violence and not violence made by students outside schools. rebut it with a clever point that even if something's not an obligation, something must be done by the society as a whole. Secondly, the opposition has stated that the school is the last stage of a person's educational life, and other schools may not accept the student if he or she is expelled. However, this is only applicable to a society in which expelling students is not a policy that one has to follow. If this policy is passed and many schools expel students because this is a policy, then many students and schools will be aware that there has to be some place for those expelled students. Yes. Then are you saying that it is okay to forgive and forbear criminals just because we feel sorry for them? Also, the opposition has stated that schools need to educate and civilize students. However, we say that if someone has gotten to a point in which they may get expelled, we believe that this is the problem of the individual and not the policy or the school. Of course, students must educate and civilize their students. However, schools are already educating and civilizing their students with classes having to do with ethics and morals. And if classes like these were not able to change these students, therapies and counseling is needed, and these services are often found outside the school. The opposition has also stated that we cannot distinguish whether it's a complaint or whether it's a real crime. However, as I mentioned, objective decisions will be able to be made because larger facilities will be involved in investigation. And just because it was plain does not mean that there were no victims or offenders. They must be punished. The fundamental base of school is education, but the group of students called offenders of school rules, also known as those who have committed school violence, is threatening to tear down this base. Should we let this happen? Should we? We say no. Because a school is a society in which the majority should be respected, and the offenders of the majority are disrespected, we the government strongly and confidently believe that students who have committed school violence should be expelled. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Witt. Let's welcome the opposition win.
The status quo, the sudden increase of school violence, hasn't fallen. Lots of students are scared by bullies, and lots of students are suffering from bullies, and even teachers are. And to solve this, the government has came out with a motion. This house would expel students who have committed school violence, and the opposition believes that this policy would actually don't help the status quo, and would actually bring a counter result. Before I start, I would like to re-emphasize the motion again. The high school is not only high school, but all schools, and violence only for physical violence. In the progressing debate, I have found out a few clashes, logical errors in individual arguments, and logical errors in the individual arguments. First clash: does this policy help the victims? In school, there are limited amount of that student can hit other students. However, outside of school, unlimited violence can happen. As we all know, when the offenders get out and expelled from school, they'll be much more violent. Their violent characteristic cannot be controlled by the society. Inside schools, teachers may be able to control them. However, out of school, police is to arrest them. This policy causes both negative effects to victims and the offenders. Victims, they'll get harsher corporal violence, and offenders, they won't get chance to be educated, however, chance to be arrested. The second clash that the opposition has found is the definition. The government has made the definition school violence as mental violence and physical violence, both of them. However, according to Oxford Learner's Advanced Dictionary, violence is defined by violent behavior that is intended to hurt or to kill somebody, which is only corporal violence. And the final clash that I have found out, is whether it can solve the problem or not. The opposition team can, however, the government team cannot solve the problem. It is important for all problems to take out the root, not to take out the result. The victims of the society's atmosphere have become the offenders of school violence. So we believe that, to pick up the root, which is the mental problem of the students, we have to educate them much more in high school. To change the society's atmosphere is the basic solution to the problem. The solution, the motion that the government side has gave, cannot solve this problem. And to say about the logical errors that the government side has made, school is a place to educate, not to punish. However, they're ignoring that. They're defining school as education. However, education includes social education, which is the ability to make harmony with other students. And another logical error that they have made is government tend to be seen to ignore that students are immature and ignoring that school will punish them. We believe that school has to punish them in other ways, other human ways, not inhuman ways like However, we believe that expelling is too harsh and it is not an educational way to solve this problem. We believe there are much more human ways to solve this problem. And another logical error that they have made, why was the whip answer to the QI that which was made by at the Prime Minister's speech? Education also includes social education. Everyone should know and knows this. To conclude my speech, we have presented total 3 strong arguments, which are role of school, reality, and lose-lose policy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to choose the education atmosphere in Korea, if you want to have the sense of security in school or out of the school, you stand for the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Opposition Whip. Let's now welcome the final speaker from the opposition side, the opposition reply.
Why do you go to school? Why do I go to school? Really? Why do we go to school? Hello, I am the opposition reply, Abigail, and our team, the opposition side, strongly claim that we should not expel students who have committed school violence. We have 3 major reasons to support our argument. First, expelling is opposing the purpose of school. Now, let me answer the question that I asked you. Why do we go to school? According to Oxford Learner's Dictionary, 7th edition, school is a place where children go to be educated. We go to school to be educated. Education is not just about academic things. School is a place where we learn knowledge, but more importantly, it It is a practice joining the society. It is just a process before stepping into the real world. So, is it justifiable for schools to desert a student, a person who has not even experienced the world? Moreover, expelling is just a superficial way to solve school violence. It is instant. It is just like we have to know the main cause of a disease. We have to know the main reason of school violence. We have to pick out the main roots, not just to solve it instantly. Everything has a reason, and offenders also have a reason of acting brutally. Everyone has a story inside themselves. You have a story, I have a story, and the judges also have a story. So does offenders do. And violence is just a way of expressing themselves. We have to understand them, not desert them. We have to give them mercy, just like how priest Mariel did to Jean Valjean in Les Miserables. Next, it is not practical. The limit of expelling is very indefinite, and there is a high rate of relapse. Finally, it is a solution that gives disadvantages to both sides, both to offenders and the victims. Offenders can have a dark future, and defenders can get hurt more because of retaliation from the offender. Expelling students from schools can also increase violence outside of school. Moreover, schools will just try to cover up the incidents, and the offenders to not have bad rumors about the school and not to demean their authority. Humans are social animals. This is a saying by Greek philosopher Aristotle. Let's focus on the basis, the real purpose of school. We cannot expel immature people. Offenders are those who have wounds in themselves. Don't you think it's too cruel to desert people who have been hurt and wounds? We have to understand, hug, and love the offenders. Please show mercy to them. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Opposition reply. And now the final speaker of today's debate. Let's welcome the government to reply.
What are you? I mean, what do you do? What are your real jobs? I truly believe that everyone here will answer to my question as student. Then, here comes the next question. Where is your working places or offices? The answer will definitely be school. But think about it, ladies and gentlemen. If your companion violates others and try to break down the whole company, how would you feel? Hello, ladies and gentlemen again. I am the government reply. Can you answer to my previous question? I probably assumed the answer as yes. I hope you weren't struck dumb because this question is such a no wonder. But actually, the opposition is talking about this expected nonsense. To prove their unreasonable arguments, they said expelling students is not the school's duty and it's too harsh. But then who do you think will accept students' right? And how can we solve the problems of the offenders? And how can we compensate the victims' rights? This is not suitable what they said as a duty of school, which is education. Don't you think school should be responsible of making students to realize and know what really punishment and crime is? Now I would like to restate our team's reasonable arguments. Expelling students who have committed school violence is justifiable and can increase the school's reputation and suitable for school's purpose, which is education, and can decrease the rate of violence as it gives students awareness. If you are the victims who are violated by the offender students, will you be able to walk along in the same class, in the same school, seeing their faces? If I was the victim, I might be so shameful of seeing the offenders' faces who have violated me. The opposition is pretending if they are really caring the offenders' rights and futures. But how about the victims? How about the victims who are struggling every day and every night about the violence? But the opposition is only mentioning about the school violence that is happening outside, which is quite different of our government's definition. The opposition is saying that our definition is totally wrong by using their own Oxford Dictionary. Then are you saying that vocabulary not from the Oxford Dictionary is all wrong? Also, the opposition is only asserting that we should not expel students who have committed violence, but not providing any other alternatives to figure out the violence problem. Also, do you have any proofs that students who have been expelled with bullying again at other schools? Please consider, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think is really beneficial for you and we and to us and to our whole country? It depends on you. We shouldn't think the violence is only an emotional problem. We should think as a sensitive problem to handle in our schools, in our society. Thanks for listening to my speech.
Thank you, Governor, in reply. You may now stand up and shake each other's hands. And now for the middle school debate. Jisoo was very organized and has a clear voice and poses many questions with rhetorical answers. Jinny's loud voice and thoughtful examples strengthened the opposition side. Plus, she never looked at her notes once. Tyler's fluent speech and hand gestures strengthened the government side. Abigail's passionate voice with continual question and answering strongly shows her side. Natalie's strong introduction, negotiating with the criminal, and stoic demeanor oozes with confidence. Mueller's loud voice was hard to follow and a bit unclear, but much effort was shown. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate came down to the wire as well. The winner for the middle school debate is... the government side. Did you guys enjoy the debate? Yes! Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you, judges.